pleasure. Thank you.
Guys, we got to get to our fire starter. We're about to start a real fire, and then Royce White's going to join me after I start this fire. Let's get it rolling. The Ultra, Black Lives Matters revolutionaries, piling on suspended basketball star Kyrie Irving, have something in common with Ben Shapiro. They all hate or would hate Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. Shannon Sharpe, Stephen A. Smith, Jamel Hill, LeBron James, Charlemagne the Fraud, James Brown. These people justifying the persecution of Irving over a harmless and boring documentary would all want to silence and deplatform Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali in the 1960s. X and Ali, the highest profile members of Elijah Muhammad's Nation of Islam religious sect, boldly and clearly complained about an unhealthy relationship and power dynamic between black communities and Jewish business owners. Here's just one of many examples of what I'm talking about.
If you are personally anti-Semitic.
No, how can I be anti-Semitic when the Arabs are half the Muslim world is Semitic? If I was anti-Semitic, I'd be anti-Arab and anti-everything else. No, I think that in this country, there's one mistake that the Jews make. They put themselves in a position where whenever anybody gives an objective analysis of the role that they play, they defend themselves by accusing you of being anti-Semitic. And a Negro is not anti-Semitic when he says that the man who's exploiting him in his community is white, because it is a white man who owns all the stores. Now, is it an accident that these whites who own these stores are Jewish? If it's an accident, then the fact that he says the Jew on the corner is exploiting me isn't an anti-Semitic statement. It's just more descriptive.
In 1964, the Egyptian Gazette newspaper ran a transcript of a speech Malcolm X delivered while in the Middle East. X coined the phrase Zionist dollarism, saying, quote, "The modern 20th century weapon of neo-imperialism is dollarism. The Zionists have mastered the science of dollarism, the ability to come posing as a friend and benefactor, bearing gifts and all other forms of economic aid and offers of technical assistance." An Orthodox Jew and an establishment Republican, Ben Shapiro's distaste for X and Ali would make perfect sense and would not be driven by bigotry. Shapiro values Israel above free speech, and the wildly popular podcaster loathes to take any risk that could get him and the Daily Wire crossways with the global corporations. The ultra Black Lives Matters revolutionaries piling on suspended basketball star Kyrie Irving have something in common with Ben Shapiro. Over the weekend, Shapiro scolded his Daily Wire co-worker Candace Owens for retweeting the thoughts of Max Blumenthal, a journalist and critic of Zionism. Blumenthal is a white Jew. On Friday, he tweeted, quote, "We, white American Jews, are living in a golden age of power, affluence, and safety. Acceptance of this reality threatens the entire Zionist enterprise, from lobby fronts like the ADL to the State of Israel, because Zionism relies on Jewish insecurity to justify itself." On Sunday, Shapiro quote tweeted Owens and publicly admonished her, writing, "I think the ADL is a partisan hack organization too, but retweeting Max Blumenthal, who spends his life covering for Jew haters and stumping for Israel's destruction, makes the conversation significantly worse. It's garbage." Shapiro models the same grievance political strategy used by the ultra BLM crowd. The criticism he leveled at Owens and Blumenthal mirrors the critiques I've faced throughout my journalism career. Because I defend America by arguing that Black Americans enjoy the highest level of safety, affluence, and freedom than any other Black people on the planet, the ultra BLM activists label me, Thomas Sowell, Clarence Thomas, Larry Elder, Candace Owens as traitors unworthy of platforms. What's the real agenda of the deplatformers? What unites them? love of power and money. Power and money are their true gods. Our culture worships commerce and power. Faith in God alleviates fear. When American culture more closely adhered to Judeo-Christian values, the media probed controversial thinkers and speakers. We aired their thoughts, refuted their misguided beliefs, and pondered their harsh truths. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali were in constant demand at radio and TV stations, college campuses, and wherever truth was explored. But fear rules secular societies. Fear caused Shapiro to support the experimental vaccines and to instinctively disavow Donald Trump. Journalists, true journalists, should prioritize understanding well ahead of support and disavowment. Fear is at the root of the reaction to Kyrie Irving and Kanye West. The ultra BLM revolutionaries and ex-jocks turned broadcasters such as Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, and Reggie Miller fear losing their high-paying jobs at ESPN, Fox Sports, TNT, CBS, and NBC. Black Lives Matter is a for-profit shtick. We know that now because we've learned how the movement's founders spent the $100 million raised in the name of the group's only begotten son, George Floyd of Minnie Nazareth. The reaction to West and Irving demonstrates how members of the black media and celebrity elite line their bank accounts by pretending to be friends of the revolution. What West and Irving said about Jewish people pales in comparison to the rhetoric of Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. It's not in the same galaxy. Irving retweeted a graphic of an image of a documentary that was released in 2018 based on a book that was published in 2014. It took 8 years before anyone realized Hebrews to Negroes posed an existential threat to the Jewish community. Irving's retweet of the doc is more harmful than Amazon hosting it? The overreaction is illogical. The black elites lining up to condemn Kyrie's unmask their real revolutionary mission. They speak for the corporate elite. They speak for Pfizer and other big pharma corporations, the primary advertisers on television, the makers of the experimental vaccines Irving refused to take. They speak for Amazon, the hosting and commerce platform that is now buying sports television rights. No different from Ben Shapiro, LeBron James, Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, Charlemagne the Fraud, and roughly, I'd say 90% of all Americans who don't want to get crossways with global corporations. They don't want to jeopardize their power and the money that comes along with it. The ultra BLM revolutionaries are paid to make you believe real racism is BYU students shouting at a black Duke volleyball player, or that 10 questionable police shootings involving career criminals is a bigger problem than thousands of black men and boys killed by gang violence. It's a very profitable scam. But the deception should be obvious now in the aftermath of the Brooklyn Nets suspending Irving for a tweet. The revolutionaries spit on Kyrie's free speech and freedom of religion. They co-signed his canceling. They would do the exact same thing to Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. LeBron, Smith, Sharp, and Charlemagne are cowards afraid of jeopardizing their money. They're bought and paid for, controlled opposition. I don't have a real problem with it. I just want them to admit it. I want LeBron to admit that money is his God. He's not alone. Hip hop culture is a materialistic, secular culture. It preaches that the pursuit of money justifies all behavior. Many of the black people, disappointed that James and other NBA players haven't spoken out in support of Kyrie are members of the hip hop church that breeds love of money. Many black Christians share the philosophy. I'm a big fan of James Brown, the classy CBS broadcaster. We share the same faith. Our convictions are not the same. On Sunday, on a CBS NFL pregame show, Brown performed a 2-minute monologue that demonized Irving. He insinuated that Irving's retweet was anti-Semitic. Brown never uttered a word about Amazon. Let's watch it.
Folks, and shifting gears to a more unfortunate headline from this week. You know, all of my colleagues up here at the desk, we've all played for and coached sports and other good teams, and we have all experienced the truths and the beautiful outcomes that apply not just in sports, but they are applicable in the game of life. We all know the championships are overwhelmingly won by those who display teamwork and togetherness. But there is a serious threat to that principle today with the frightening rise in anti-Semitism, in particular, hate in general. And we're seeing that contagion not just in sports, but music, politics, and across society. Folks, hate is a disease. It is a virus that spreads and kills. Now, to cast doubt on or state definitively that the Holocaust did not happen, that's as hurtful and wrong as saying the lynching of black people didn't happen or that being enslaved was a choice. To perpetuate hurtful and false narratives, to refuse to disavow bigoted messages, and to fail to take responsibility when one's actions and words inflict harm is simply unacceptable. Words do matter, especially coming from highly visible people. Their words influence people's attitudes and behaviors. And I pray fervently that those with hearts of teamwork, togetherness, and love will speak more loudly and persuasively to prevail against this viciousness. No matter how idealistic this may sound, it is the truth, because that is how we defeat hate.
No, you know how we defeat hate? By shining a light on it, by presenting the other side, not by people sitting on some platform, condemning this person for X, Y, and Z. The light pushes out darkness. All of this fear that's being promoted, all of these false equivalencies, all of these lies that are being used to justify, hey, we got to silence Kyrie Irving. We got to deny him the freedom of religion that has served this country for 250 years. We got to deny it to Kyrie Irving. Oh, we gave it to Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. And we celebrate Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. They got to enjoy religious freedom. They got to say whatever they thought and whatever they believed without people running around like cowards. Oh my God, it's so hurtful and damaging. I can't believe they said this. And it's just like if someone said they denied lynching, that would be harmful and damaging. No, it wouldn't. I don't care what idiots think. Doesn't hurt me. How can people in 1960, just 20 years after World War II, just 20 years after the United States and other countries formed to stop the Holocaust and save the people being oppressed and persecuted and destroyed in Germany, Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X were free to say whatever they wanted just 20 years after that. We fast forward another 60 years, and now it's like, this is a bridge too far. Oh my God, you can't. If you offer any criticism of Jewish people, it's a bridge too far. Now, Ali and X could do it, and everybody could pretend like they loved them, and they were great. But not you guys, not this generation. If you he hasn't even said anything close to what these guys said. And you're not going to convince me that somebody offering up a stupid opinion about lynchings or slavery somehow harms me. That's a lie, being told to protect other lies. The world doesn't work that way. This is a power grab, a money grab, a gimmick. It's completely obvious. Anybody, Stevie Wonder can see it. It's a money grab. There's no truth here. If somebody said, because again, we as black people, we love to run around and act like, oh my God, they lynched 100,000 black people during slavery and after slavery and Jim Crow. Here's the facts that don't care about your feelings. The Bloods and the Crips got more bodies on them, black bodies on them, than the KKK. We done shot and killed more black men under senseless gang violence, caused more damage to our own communities. This is what I love, this whole thing we love to do. Oh, the Tulsa Massacre. Oh my God, the Tulsa Massacre. We got to go all the way back to the 1920s. Oh, the Tulsa Massacre. We ain't got to go that far. Run the tape or go to Google and look up what we did to Los Angeles in the aftermath of Rodney King. What we did makes the Tulsa Massacre look like a day at the park. How many times we burned up our own communities? And I'm not caping up or defending the people for the alleged Tulsa Massacre. But this madness, 2020, go look what we did to our own neighborhoods. Go look what we did to Ferguson over Michael Brown. Oh, but all that's justified. You can make our communities uninhabitable, impossible for businesses to flourish, impossible for people to want to invest in those communities. That's all fine and good. Black people did that. We burned it down. We got gassed up by white liberals and burned down our own communities. That's good. That's the voice of the unheard. That does no damage. But oh, Tulsa, oh my God, if it wasn't for Tulsa, the world would be perfect. James Brown's lying. He's caping up to protect his bag. He doesn't want to get crossways with the global corporations that that finance and pay for and bail out people that burn down black communities on a daily basis over career criminals, chasing after the police. James Brown would hate Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X no different than Ben Shapiro, Shannon Sharp, LeBron James, Jamel Hill, Stephen A. Smith, and whoever else I can't remember, I'm leaving off the list. All of these people they so pro-black, and they run around with their little Malcolm X, and they're all so in support of Muhammad Ali. No, they're not. They're playing a game for money. It's a scam. Fear is in control. Years ago, before secularism, this godless society we've created, and fear took over American culture years ago, we used to want to understand and debate Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Kyrie Irving, Kanye West. You know why? Because we wasn't scared. We had the truth on our side. We stood on our religious faith and would engage with these people without fear. Now everybody's a coward, completely emasculated because they've turned their back on God. I'm gonna let's get to Royce before I burn my own self up, burn my own self down. We'll be back with Royce White next. All right, welcome back. Let's go deep. Let's roll out to Minneapolis, bring in Royce White to expound, fan the flames on this fire I started. Royce, I'm sorry I went on as long as I did, but I had to get that off my chest. I want to start here. Ben Shapiro, LeBron James, Shannon Sharp, all of these clowns I'm seeing condemning Kyrie Irving, condemning Max Blumenthal. These guys, particularly the Black Revolution, they would hate Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X, but they swear they're the most pro-Black, revolutionary, about that life people. It's all a scam for money.
Absolutely. One of the first times I was on the show with you, I remember saying these BLM leftist progressives and advocates don't want to ever bring up Malcolm X. They only tacitly approve of Malcolm X in an imagistic way or an iconic way. You know, he's fine on a T-shirt. He's fine in a highlight reel of Black faces and prominent Black figures. But they never want to hone down and pin down on what Malcolm X actually preached. And they prove it all the time with their politics. But really, many of us prove our own ignorance around Malcolm X and what he preached. And Malcolm X is probably one of, if not one of my, greatest political idols, especially from when it comes to Black intellectual leaders or Black spiritual leaders. So, yeah, all of them pretend to be of the cloth of Malcolm X, and they couldn't be anything further from.
I've read his autobiography probably a half dozen times. I used to make my cousins, they come visit me. I'd make them read To Kill a Mockingbird, make them read an autobiography of Malcolm X. I'd reread it with them, talk about it. It's obviously, and I've stated, I'm not a Nation of Islam member, never have been, never bought into the religious aspects of it, but as a political ideology, as a Black man, self-responsibility, get off your knees and quit begging philosophy, I've bought into it hook, line, and sinker, and it just infuriates me that we can't see how the sacrificing of Kyrie's religious freedom eventually is going to cost all of us our religious freedoms. Right now, it's Kyrie, and he's a Black Hebrew Israelite, and these thoughts are out of bounds. Well, the next revelation is going to be Jason Whitlock and that King James Bible. Those thoughts are out of bounds. It's how can people not see this?
Let's dial back for a second, because we are 24 hours away from one of, if not the most important midterm election in American history. And I want to start here. Conservatism without God is controlled opposition. Many of us have gotten lost in the political ping pong or football in a game that's been played here with our American political system, and we've been lost in this liberalism versus conservatism. And the other day I said that liberalism and communism are really the same thing to me, but if you dive even deeper, then liberalism and conservatism without God become the same thing. And I said this before, and I'll stress it again: uniparty, uniparty, uniparty. I feel like if I say it 3 times like Beetlejuice, then people will understand. What you're seeing play out with Ben Shapiro and Candace. And here's the deal. I'm starting to like Candace more and more. I'll tell you that. I'm starting to see Candace's solution more and more. You are what your score says you are, and the times make the warrior. And they're completely fine with her talking about Black people with impunity. But she can't make one mention of this conversation around Jews. And she can't even, like in a Kyrie way, she can't even retweet what somebody else has said about the situation who's an actual Jew. And with that being said, let's go back to the start of this, because I think people suffer from a loss of history. When Zionism was first developed, none of the founding fathers of Zionism, Theodore Herzl and his whole crew, wanted the state of Israel to be in the Holy Land. Why? Because they were anti-religious. They didn't think there was any necessity for Israel to be in what was considered the biblical Holy Land, because they rejected the Bible and they rejected the Torah. Okay, now what they actually proposed that the state of Israel be in a place like Uganda or Patagonia. But by the time World War II had finished and it came time to actually justify Israel's creation, it made sense to justify it by tying it back to a biblical claim that God's chosen people were promised this land, even though they had rejected God. And without trying to be too hyperbolic here, if you want to think about the Uniparty, there's a panoply of issues where the Uniparty shows itself. But one of the stalwarts is Israel. One of the stalwarts of the Uniparty MO is Israel. On one side, you got the ADL and the identity politics and the liberal corporatocracy. And on the other side, you have the military industrial complex and the neocons, right? And all of them are pro-Israel to the max. And it's dangerous for a person like me, as somebody who aspires to politics, to even say that. And in that gives you a level of proof of how serious the quote unquote conspiracy is. Because let me give you an example. Right here in our own town of Minneapolis, both sides of the aisle were funded by the same a similar group of Jewish elites. Okay, and I think they're anti-Jews. They don't believe in God. So again, we'll continue to make that distinction for the people who want to say that we're Jew hating. No, they're not Jews, but they claim to be Jews, and they funded Ilhan Omar as well as they funded Nikki Haley. Okay, so but they're never pro-Trump, right? In most cases, and here's what's important about this. And I love what you wrote in your column about Malcolm X and talking about the Zionist movement perfecting the science of dollarism. Here's what we're talking about. Are we talking about Jews, or are we even talking about Israel? No, I'm pro-Israel. I think Israel should continue to exist. We are where we are. These people were promised a land by a power that sat above them, and they've been there for 60 years. They have just as much claim to it as anybody else, and they're willing to fight and die for that. And I respect that. I respect that greatly. This isn't about that. This is about how Israel and the Jewish identity is being used in the public discourse, in the geopolitical discourse. And just for example, over the past few days, the UN Assembly, the General Assembly, voted for Israel to disarm its nuclear arsenal. And guess what? America, Canada, and a few other countries voted no. Israel, no, we're not disarming our nukes. In fact, a couple weeks back, Joe Biden said if Iran doesn't play ball with the new nuclear deal, we'll go to war with Iran. So not only are we going to have a war in the Ukraine, now we're going to have a war in Iran over the nuclear armament. And what next? In Kashmir with India and Pakistan or India and China? All of these conversations have global implications. And this is why my campaign was run on the idea that the global affects the local. This is why these conversations matter. It's not about Ben Shapiro and his opinion. And Ben Shapiro's weak on this issue. And it doesn't matter if you're great on 9 other issues. You are what your score says you are on each individual issue. And as people at home, we have to stop being so enamored and so loyal to people who speak out in the public square that we don't take each issue apart for its own merit. Ben is weak on this issue. Candace is right. It's not about Israel. It's not about hating Jews. It's actually to call Jews to stand up and stop allowing themselves to be used the same way Candace has called for black people to stop allowing themselves to be used. It's the exact same thing.
I got to go with you when you're right, and you're nailing it. I'm shocked or surprised, or I could see it coming, but now it's here and it's staring me in the face. But Ben is a religious Orthodox Jewish person. I'm sitting here wondering how he cannot see that infringing upon Kanye or Kyrie's religious freedom isn't the same slippery slope that we keep pointing out, like, hey, you know, same-sex marriage, that's a slippery slope. And here we are with drag queens in schools. And so this slippery slope, we used to let people like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali say and think whatever they wanted. We'd put them on TV, we'd debate them, we'd talk with them, we'd try to understand them. But now we're on this slippery, well, nope, that person, Kyrie, let's suspend him. Max Blumenthal shouldn't be platformed. Max Blumenthal's a white Jew. He gets to criticize white Jewish people, I would think, without fear of having to be deplatformed. I'm sitting, why Ben Shapiro can't see this as someone with religious faith that doesn't understand, making sure everybody has freedom to practice their religion and think what they want. How is he not making that connection?
Because the people have to understand that these issues are ironclad around this entire agenda. And yes, there are people from all walks of life that are roped off and you could say they're compartmentalized in their own little silo of identity and historical cultural traditions and so on and so forth. But all of this is essential to the agenda. And the political status quo since World War II has been that to question anything having to do with Jews or Israel is completely off limits, even for Jews. So when they go after Blumenthal for talking about his own culture, they prove Kanye West right. It's not about a black person being insensitive towards Jews. It's about the conversation around Jews and Israel being completely roped off for any and everybody, even people who are Jews who live here in America or people who are Jews who live there in Israel. And to go back to the dollarism question, why is it important? What is Malcolm X saying that the science of dollarism has been perfected and become the anchor of Zionism? Look at where we are today as a country economically. Set the politics aside. Set the political narrative driven by the media aside. $173 trillion in unfunded liabilities right now today in America. $173 trillion in unfunded liabilities. What does that mean? That means the ass has fallen off the donkey. That means the bottom is gone. We're all just spinning in the toilet bowl waiting to go down the pipe. And we don't understand it yet. And much of this WWE narrative, you could argue, has been set in place to keep people distracted until they find a tenable solution. And what we have to wonder and be scared of is what that solution may be. You know, when you corner a bank robber, when a bank robber's cornered and he has nowhere to go, what does he do? He starts shooting, or he surrenders. Do we think these people are going to surrender and go quiet? Do we think? And here's another stat: $2.5 quadrillion in derivative debt that the economists are saying is going to turn into real debt over the next 18 months. $2.5 quadrillion of World Bank debt. Guys, it's all over. I mean, let's just be honest. The question is, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here, and who's going to be in charge of where we go from here, which is why tomorrow's midterm is one of the most important midterm elections in American history, in world history, in modern civilization's history, because there's a financial crisis coming that's going to have food implications, that's going to have logistical implications, that's going to have medical implications like we've never seen before. Or they create a workaround and you lose your rights in order to never have to feel the effects of it. And that is where the international conspiracy is not a conspiracy. They're writing it right in the Federal Register. They're writing it right in the Wall Street Journal. They're writing it in the London Times. The Bank of London's reporting on it. This economic situation is untenable, and it was all stemmed from a banking cartel, an international banking cartel, getting way out over their skis and doing what they want to do. while people were distracted.
So if I'm connecting all of those dots and relating it to Kyrie Irving, because, I mean, this Kyrie Irving thing just totally just baffles me. How a retweet of a documentary that no one has watched could make James Brown, Kyrie Irving's a basketball player, on Sunday before NFL games. James Brown is talking about Kyrie Irving and how, oh my God, basically he's saying any criticism, any conversation around Jewish is anti-Semitic. It's like there seems to be a desperation to get this message out of, boy, don't you talk about this certain group of untouchable people. Yeah. And it seems so manufactured that I'm just wondering, it has to be connected to what you're talking about. And these midterm elections and everything is like, and there's like, we're going to enter it into the record that whatever the fallout is of this crash course that the world is on and America's on, there's a certain group of people you better not talk about and you better not blame them. That's seems to be where this is going and coming from.
Okay, and absolutely. And here's the olive branch. Just so people understand who are watching this, because these are historic times. That I'm sincere when I'm saying that this is not about the Jewish people. There is a group of people who don't believe in God, who I say do not have a claim to being Jews because they don't believe in God. But that's a secondary spiritual, theological conversation. First and foremost, in the political, you can make the claim that the Jews have been used and have willingly accepted the fall guy position in a global economic experiment. Okay, and in that, because remember now, there was a time in history when the Jews were only allowed to do certain work. Why? Because Christians and Muslims didn't believe in interest. They didn't believe in usury, right? Usury was actually forbidden in the Islamic and Christian cultural faith and practice. So that's why the Jews got into banking in the first place, albeit the way the history is told. Now, were any of us there? No, but that is the accepted historical narrative, is that Jews got into banking originally because their interpretation of the faith allowed them to do so. Well, they've carried that for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so you can argue that all of the moral hazard that our nation and our global society has accrued from our own radical materialism now sits on the shoulders of the Jews. It sits on the shoulders of the Jewish people who have carried the financial reins. And so, yes, what you're seeing is that all of the people who have a vested interest in radical materialism from all walks of life are coming together and are coalescing to protect their money exchangers. They're coming together to protect the narrative around their bankers. And that's the crown. But it's not just the crown. It's the Saudis. Okay, it's the Chinese, right? It's the Russians. It's the other European monarchies. It's us here in the West. It's us here at home in America. There's a reason why the boycott the NBA trend hit and then it went away. There's a reason why a Malcolm X wouldn't survive today. It's not because it's not just because there's a concerted effort to keep them silent. It's because we accept when the system silences them, because we want in on it. We want to be rich. We wish we could be Andrew Tate. We wish we could be Jeff Bezos. Our inability, our unwillingness to criticize Jeff Bezos with a fair and even hand the way we do Kyrie Irving is a reflection of us wanting to be like him. We would rather be Bezos than we would be Kyrie, so Kyrie gets the short end of the stick and he's expendable. And it's not about him being black. That's just a bonus. That's just a bonus for the whites involved who actually have genuine racism and the other blacks who are jealous of their fellow black man. Okay, so all of these things are playing into it at one time, but I did want to offer that olive branch on a historical basis to my Jewish brothers and sisters because, I understand the way that history unfolds and how we get committed to a position, we get committed to a way of life, and it's very, very, very difficult to turn back. I'm calling for a truth commission. I don't want to round up Jews. I don't want to round up any of these international global public figures or elites who have driven us to this position. I'd call for a truth commission. Let's figure out who did what and what happened and give them forgiveness based on them giving us the information we need to dig ourselves out of this hole and repair what we've broken.
It's also, Royce, connected to, you don't just want a truth commission, and I hate to speak for you, but I'm not. I'm just repeating what you've already said previously on this show. You want us all to just come back to God. And that's why Kyrie, Kanye, what he represents, the Sunday sessions and all that, we certainly need to come to Jesus. And if you don't believe in Jesus, just respect for a higher authority. We got to get back to some religious values and culture, or we're done. This materialistic, hedonistic, satanic society that we've built. And because you've just hammered one of my major points. I look at all of these alleged pro-black revolutionary freedom fighters, and all they're fighting for is the right to be racist bigots. They keep saying they want to put down racist bigots. No, you really just want to be one. You just want things to favor you. You don't want merit to matter. You just want the system to favor you. And that's what I listen to these, and most of them are idiots. They're out beyond their skis. They're paid opposition. They're MK Ultras. They're just told what to do. There's a whole little cabal, and they all got the same agent or agency, and everybody's on the same message. And but I will say this: when I'm watching NFL football, and James Brown, a Christian, one of the classiest broadcasters I know, is taking Kyrie back to the woodshed and not even man to call him out by name. But it's the same deal. I'm watching him do it, and I'm just like, my head nearly exploded. I was like, is that serious? The retweet of a document there's something up. I'm gonna give you the final thought, and then we've gone long. I got to get out of here. But final thought, and we'll go.
Well, my final thought is these people have to pay a price with God, and we do have to return to God. And there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about the fact that where we are in society is a result of radical materialism, and it's a result of our fear. Not only our desire to have radical materialism and all the things that come along with it, all the physical passions and lust that come along with wealth, but also our fear of laying our life down in service to God and what that would mean and what God may call us to do and how hard it may be to stay in the grace of God or be worthy of God's love. But all of that stems from a lack of theological understanding and good religious and faithful teaching that God already loves you. And yes, you can let him down, and yes, you can disappoint him, but he still loves you. The question is, what are you going to do? What do you feel called to do in service of that love and grace? And by and large, not only are we not even playing around in the realm of how we should serve God, we've completely rejected God. I mean, we're so far out over the hill. The only two things that could happen is the Messiah could return and put everything back in order, but none of us know the date or time. Or across the world, individually, Christians, Muslims, Jews, people who believe in God, people who believe in some form of higher ethic have to start to come together along a line of genuine truth and understanding and band together and fight back against this force. Look, the Church of Satan, verified on Twitter. The Satanic Temple, verified on Twitter. What are they going after? What are they promoting? What are they advocating right now? Abortion. Right out in the open, they're going after the abortion bills. The church, is it by accident that the Church of Satan or the Satanic Temple are going after the abortion topic? Is it by accident that here in Minneapolis, every time I'm on YouTube and I'm watching the show and an ad comes up that was paid for by the Democrat Party, that it's saying that our governor Republican candidate or our attorney general Republican candidate or the House congressional or the Secretary of State is all about abortion? The Democrat Party has hedged its entire midterm strategy on abortion. Now, if that doesn't tell you that you're being scammed in the pocket first and foremost, I don't know what else will, because they don't even want to talk about the economy. It's like the economy is a secondary issue. The first issue is, are you able to kill your baby or not when you want to or with unlimited access? That's number one. And then we'll talk about Donald Trump. And then we'll go on. I mean, none of it is actually about the American people and their everyday lives. And Kyrie Irving's just another example of that. They want to keep your focus on some superficial, hyperbolic issue where they can say, this guy right here is your enemy. Focus on him. Whether it's Greenblatt over at the ADL, or it's even Ben Shapiro, or it doesn't go further than that. It's Hannity, it's Don Lemon, it's you can go down the list. Focus on Kyrie. Don't watch the inflation. Don't watch the $173 trillion of unfunded liabilities. Don't watch the $2.5 quadrillion of derivatives and World Bank debt. Keep your focus right on the young black man who plays basketball for a living.
Thank you, Royce. Great job. Great show today. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, no deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom.